Let's do a little bit of a history lesson, then we'll take a question or two and then get to Joshua Kahn. But I do want to just say, and we're going to play a clip that goes with this because it really exemplifies the best of the internationalism that we're so passionate about here. But James Connolly, who was a great Irish revolutionary, was killed in 1916 by a firing squad as a result of his role in the Easter Uprising. I'll read just a little bit from this BBC description of him. There's great, there's great pieces on him in Tribune and Jacobin. But Connolly was born in Edinburgh, the son of Irish parents. He was brought up in poverty, largely self-educated and attracted into politics by the labor movement and drawn to it to Ireland. And he talks basically his project, which is I think there's actually lessons for us, even though not one-to-ones, but there's some very interesting lessons to be learned from projects that were about national liberation and autonomy as Connolly's struggle to free Ireland from British rule, that also linked with internationalism and a socialist-oriented labor movement. And, Connolly really was a great and exceptional revolutionary in that tradition. We'll talk more about him in that context in future episodes. But I want to play a couple of minutes of this really great clip that contextualizes it to me and I think shows these bonds. This is Thabo Mbeki, who of course served as president of South Africa after Nelson Mandela. He was basically an external affairs for the ANC. When they were a movement in exile, they had different wings. They had a base in Southern Africa, not in South Africa, but in neighboring countries, and in neighboring countries where they had a presence, and they had, an information arm, a diplomatic arm, people fighting, doing guerrilla training, and an armed wing as well. Then there was, particularly there was internal activation, and there was also people who sort of, traveled and basically brought the ANC and built its international reputation and social activism across Europe and the United States, and also built relationships with really important patrons of the African National Congress, primarily the Soviet Union and also PALM's Sweden. This is Thabo Mbeki. He's in Ireland at the University of Dublin from 2016. And in this conversation, he's going to talk about the difference as an ANC representative in communication with Ireland versus other places in Europe. And I think it says something about Ireland's particular history, obviously, James Connolly's role, and the way these bridges are built in a genuine internationalism. So we'll take a couple of minutes and watch that.
Ireland, one of our leading people, Professor Kadasma, an ANC member, was at Trinity. I came here, I did an anti-apartheid meeting at the University of Cork.
Tell us more about that.
No, it was.
What was that like?
It was very good. Yeah. The Irish anti-apartheid, they arranged these meetings, and they said to me, "Come, there's a meeting must address in Cork." Fine, came, and it was at the university. It was very good. The hall was.
The crowd receptive.
Oh, very, very, very much so. The hall was very full, and I'm very Irish.
Really? What marked it as being particularly Irish for you?
You see, for instance, there was an old man here in the hall, white hair, and he says to me, "Now, Mr. Mbeki, can you tell me, have you heard of James Connolly?" So I said, "Yes." So he says, "Have you read anything by James Connolly?" So I said, "No." "Have you heard of Patrick Pearse?" I said, "Yes." "Have you read anything by Patrick Pearse?" "No." I think he mentioned a couple of other people. And he said to me, at the end of the meeting, "I'm going to give you a list of books to read. Because you need to understand the liberation struggle in Ireland. which has gone on for many centuries. Because I think that you must learn some lessons from our struggle, which are going to be important for you in South Africa. So indeed I said, fine. I'm saying it was important because you could only get that discussion, that kind of discussion here in Ireland. If you did anti-apartheid meetings in England, as we did, I mean, you'd go to a meeting and they would be asking you questions about what pensions do black people get? What pensions do white people get? You know, that kind of question. Legitimate. Okay. Legitimate questions and so on. But here at Cork, the question was, what lessons can you draw from the Irish liberation struggle in order to defeat that regime in South Africa? You would never meet that kind of question in England. But here you would.
It's fascinating.
So it was, I'm saying, it was very Irish. It was Irish. And of course, you had a lot of people.
Rap that he actually goes on to talk about the role of missionary schools and religion and solidarity and the generation of sort of education and the anti-colonial struggle in Africa. But I love, and that really is, I mean, there's so much to learn from the African National Congress. Again, in government, including under Mbeki, in many ways, it's a different story, but even that we have to put in its proper historical context. They achieved this incredible liberation right at a time when the triumphalism of the Washington Consensus was at its height. But the types of genuine internationalism and currents that they synthesized are things that we all really need to learn from. And I just thought that was a remarkable clip. If you guys have anything to add, if not, I'll do a few questions before we get to Joshua.
Yeah, I would just say
I was very moved by that. Yeah,
that's one of the most. That's just such a powerful through line of anti-colonial struggle too, and the most progressive left wing and and the best tradition I think of it too. I mean trying to build a kind of working class run defeat of the British system, which is, one of the worst colonial systems, but also one of the most explicitly capitalist systems. And a lot of the tactics that the British used around the world were developed, in their colonial rule of Ireland for so long.
Absolutely. So and then of course, that whole other, the British get kicked out by the Boers, and the Boers create apartheid. I mean, there's a lot to learn there.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.